Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Premiere Pro tutorial. The objective of this lesson is to retrieve an object, and I have this guy explaining how you're going to do that right now.
Hi class, for your next Premiere Pro project, all I need you to do is retrieve an object. That's it. I have my Rubik's Cube right over there, and I'm going to go get it. And I'm going to have you do the same thing. You're going to record yourself going to get an object. However, you need to do it one of two ways. You can either do it using super speed, like this, or you can teleport, like this. However you like. Choose one or both of those things. Record yourself, put it in Premiere, and have fun.
All right, so you saw it. We are going to create superpowers to create to retrieve the object. So you get to choose between one of two powers, either super speed like Quicksilver or teleportation like Nightcrawler. Pick whichever one you would like, or you can try both of them if you want to test out both. You're going to set up your shooting location just like you saw in the video inside the classroom, or you could do it outside the classroom. You'll need the necessary equipment to shoot your scene, and then you'll edit your clips in Premiere Pro, and this tutorial will explain how to edit them. And then you'll turn in your exported video for your points. So the equipment that you're going to need: a simple camera tripod setup. You need to make sure that your camera is on a tripod so there's no movement from the camera at all. You'll need an SD card, of course, to record everything, and a small object to retrieve. So now let me explain how you're going to set up your shot and edit your video.
So in order to do the superpowers effect, either teleportation or super speed, all you need to do is do a couple of easy recordings with a camera on a tripod, like this. So first you're going to need an empty shot. So first step out of the shot, which I've already taken, and just record an empty shot of the area with nothing moving, nothing changing, for about 15 to 20 seconds. That's all you need. And then you can stop recording. And then without moving the tripod or moving the camera or doing anything, then you can record yourself in the camera like I am right here. So first, start off to one side of the camera. You'll see I'm over here, off to this left side, and have your object on the other side. Doesn't matter which side, as long as you're on one side and the object is on the other side, both in camera. If you want to do the super speed option, you just have to have a good starting and stopping pose when you're running. So get into a running pose, and then you're going to start running, like that. It doesn't really matter how you run, because we're going to cut all this part out in the middle, and then you just need to come to a stop, like that. Everything else in between is going to disappear. So again, if you're going to go back or in another direction, just get into a pose and start running. But then the rest of this part we're going to cut out, so it doesn't really matter. And then you got to come to a stop, like that. Same thing with teleportation. We're just going to jump in the air in two spots, and we're going to cut out the part in the middle, so it doesn't really matter what happens in the middle. So pick your starting spot for teleportation, if you're going to do that one, and just jump in the air, like that. I suggest jumping into a little ball like I just did, because the shockwave effect comes out in the little ball. So then we're going to go to our second spot, wherever you're going to land, and you're going to jump like you're coming out of the teleportation, like that. It's as simple as that. And I'll bring all these clips into Premiere Pro, and I'll show you how it's done.
Okay, now that you've recorded your clips, bring them into Premiere Pro, create a new project called Retrieve the Object, and bring in your shots. So remember, first you need an empty shot. So you need a shot like this of your area that's completely empty with nothing changing, nothing moving. I also suggest shooting indoors or in a very shaded area. You don't want an area with sunlight coming in, because light will change very subtly, and you'll see if that happens in your shot. So try to get a nice shaded shot. So first, bring in the empty shot, which I've done right here. This is my empty shot. And again, we don't need any sound right now for this particular edit, so just leave it with drag video only. So put the empty shot on track number 1, and then put your running shot, which is this one right here. I've already grabbed this one and placed it on track layer 2. So this is going to be my running shot right here. And we're not going to do any rate stretching or speeding up. We're going to add a couple of cool effects to create this. So again, I only need drag video only, and I just need the running portion. So right now, there's me barely running. Again, because we're going to cut out everything in the middle. The only thing that really matters is your starting position when you start the run right there, and then when you come to a stop when you end the run. Those are the only parts that matter. Everything in between, this whole middle part, is going to get cut out. Okay, so the first thing is to start right where you're about to run. So for this, you want to be really zoomed in. We want to go on the frame for this one. So make sure you zoomed in, move your playhead until right you're about to run, maybe right there. You can also move one frame at a time by hitting the arrow keys on your keyboard. So if I tap the left and right keys on my keyboard, I can go one frame at a time. There's my run right there. So let's go right as I start moving, right as my momentum starts. So maybe, let's say right about there. That's a good spot. So right there, I'm going to make a cut. So grab your razor tool or C on your keyboard, and let's make a cut right there on our running track. So now let's move down, and we're going to do the same thing right when we come to a stop. So make like a braking motion, like you just came to a stop, maybe like that right there. That's a good one. And let's make another cut. So don't delete this part yet. We need to make a few changes. So right now I just cut out this entire part right here, the whole run. None of this is going to matter. So bring it back all the way to the very beginning. Zoom all the way in. Make sure you're right on the line, right where you made this cut for this first one right here. So make sure right on the line where the cut was made. On this clip in the middle, the one just to the right of the cut, right click on it, and you're going to do add frame hold right there. So click add frame hold, and what that does is this entire clip, it freezes it on this specific frame right here. And again, make sure you're right on this frame right at the very beginning. So now if I move it, you'll see nothing's happening. I held on that particular frame. So that entire clip is that frame right there. So once you've done that, once you've done the add frame hold, we need to go in about 4 or 5 frames, not too many. It's going to be a super quick effect. So again, use the arrow keys on your keyboard and just tap 4 or 5 times to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4. If you want to do 5, that's okay, but I wouldn't do more than 4 or 5. And then we're going to make a cut right there. So cut. And this is going to be our little running sequence right here. So this part now we can delete. This little chunk, let's delete it. And then let's delete this gap so this part closes back in. So now you'll see between these two spots right here, there's this quick little gap. We go here to there. And we're going to create a short little animation on this little guy right here so it zips across to the other side. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we're going to mask out ourselves with the opacity pen. So let's get a nice zoom in, maybe 150 or 100. Again, remember to get nice and close when you're doing this part. And then come over to your effect controls. Make sure you're on this one right here, this one in the middle. You don't want to be drawing the mask on this or that or any other clip. You want to be right on this little guy right here. So use the pen, start drawing. Again, you want to be relatively precise. If you're not 100% precise on this one, it's okay, but you want to be pretty dang close. It'll sell the effect even more the better your mask is. All right, and I'm going to speed this part up. All right, so now my mask is mostly done. I just need to finish it off by connecting the final dot right here. There you go, and now my mask is complete. And remember, you can always adjust the mask feather. If it's a little too soft, you can take it down. It doesn't have to be 0, but a little less than 10. So I masked out myself completely right here. Do the best you can. It will be blurry since you're in motion. That's okay. We have the motion blur from the movement, but try to get it best as you can, even around the blurry spots, like right there. Just try to keep it nice and close. And so now that our mask is done, looking good right there, we can zoom back out again. So the reason we need the empty shot is to fill in the gaps right here. So when you mask out yourself, it's going to create a black background, but you can't tell because I have the empty shot. If I hide the empty shot, it looks like this. This is why we need the empty shot to fill in the space that's missing once we create our mask. So now we're actually going to add a transformation effect to move this. However, if we just slap on the transform effect, it won't work. So there's kind of a little workaround that you can do in Premiere Pro. If you're ever trying to stack effects on top of each other, there's a little bit of a cheat we can use by nesting the clip. So on this clip, you're going to right click on it and choose nest. And when it asks you to nest, it's going to ask you to give it a name. It doesn't really matter. You can just call it run or run one or nest run or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call mine run just for that. So, okay. And you'll see what happens if I go back to my project. It creates this little sequence right here. It turns it green, and this becomes its own little nested sequence. It's a sequence within a sequence. Again, it's kind of complicated, but just trust that if you do that, it's kind of a way you can stack multiple effects on top of each other. All right, so now that we have that, let's make sure we're right back on that center frame one more time. So now we're going to add the transform effect. So let's go to our effects tab, search for transform, one that we've used before. Remember, it's this one right here. Grab this, drop it right on our nested clip right there. Now let's come over here to our transform one. Because we're going to create a couple of keyframes for position and scale. Make sure you're on the transform right here. If you just start doing the position and scale from the motion, it won't have the same effect. We want to use the transform option right here. Okay, so make sure we're right on the line, right where we started. And let's start by creating our position and scale keyframes. So we'll click those stopwatches because we're going to have a little keyframe animation. So you started right there in our starting spot. And we're going to move this down to the end of our little frame right there. So that's where it ends. Between these two frames right here, we need to move our guy to land in the same spot. So I need him to land right there. So let me go back one frame right there. So now I'm going to start moving the position and scale to have him go over there. Let's adjust the scale, make it smaller. I'm going away from the camera, so I need to make it smaller. And this will, the way you move it will depend on which way you went. If you went from left to right like I did, or if you went from right to left, you'll have to move your position and scale to just match. So let's say right about there. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good. You kind of want the heads to line up as a good indicator. So let me move them over just a little bit more. That looks good right there. That looks like a good spot. See, now they're right on top of each other as I move back and forth. Excellent. So now if I take these two keyframes and move them to the end, you'll see we have a little keyframe animation as the guy moves across. See that? Obviously it doesn't look like a speed run just yet. We still need to add a couple more things to it, but you can see how the animation is starting to come together. We need to smooth it out and then we're done. So first thing we're going to do is smooth out the transitions a little bit. So these two keyframes on the right, let's do an ease in. So right click on them when they're both highlighted and do ease in. So it smooths out the transition into those keyframes. And these two on the left, let's highlight these, right click and do ease out. That will smooth it out a little bit more. So you can see it's slightly smoother now. And one last thing we need to do to really sell it, because it kind of looks like I'm just levitating across, we need to add a blur to make it look more believable. See how I'm moving, but I look exactly the same. So we don't need to add another effect. We're just going to come right down here under the transform tab still. Uncheck this box right here that says use composition shutter angle. And where it says shutter angle, click on this number and you're going to type in 250. So when I type that in, it changes the angle of the shutter and you see how I look blurry now. So now if I play the effect, it has this motion blur that looks more realistic, and that's how you do the dash like that. And one other thing we can do to really sell this, I've provided you with some sound effects. You come right here, I downloaded the exercise files I gave you, the whoosh and shockwave. So you have a couple whoosh options. It's like some of these, so you can grab either one. I gave you two. So let's pick whichever one you like. I like this one. I'm going to go with this one. And we're going to put it down here. This is going to be our sound effect. So we just need to put it right here where the whoosh happens right underneath our run. Like that. It's a little loud. Let me turn it down. A little too loud. We don't want it peaking or anything. That's much better. So now, again, really sells it using our super speed. Perfect. And now I can cut this. I don't need the rest of this clip anymore. And here's our super speed. Just like that. All right, let's do the teleporting one. So teleport, it's going to start out the exact same way. It's a little bit simpler. So let me show you how to do it. So we have our empty shot on the bottom again, right here. Just the plain old empty shot, nothing in it, nothing changing, nothing moving. If there's the slightest change or movement, it will be noticeable in the final product. So try to do your best to make sure there's no change or movement in the background. And then we're going to take our teleporting one, which is the one where we jump up and down. And we're going to put that one on layer 2. Again, we don't need any sound. So right now, it's just the jumping, like I showed you in the video. You're just going to jump and go to your other spot and jump again. Everything in between the two jumps is going to be cut out, so it doesn't matter what happens. Just like that. All right, so we're going to go cut at the top of both jumps. So let's move our playhead right at the highest point. Again, you can use your arrows on your keyboard to move. Let's say that's the highest spot right there. I'm going to go with that spot as the highest. So right there, again, I'm going to make a cut on my teleport clip right there. And let's do the same thing. All this is going to be cut out. We're just going to make another cut at the highest point of the other one. Right about there. Let me go back a couple frames. Right there. Let's say that's the highest point. So let's cut there. And for this one, actually, this whole middle part, we're going to delete it. So get rid of it. And let's zoom in. So now we're just going to bring these pieces closer together. And the distance between them will depend on how long you want the teleportation effect to happen. If we put it right next to each other, it's an instantaneous teleport, like that. But we're going to add that cool smoke effect. So we actually want a slight delay on ours. So we're gone for a little bit and then we come back, as opposed to just an instant transmission like that. So if I bring this out a little bit, I go out here, it'll be a lot longer until I come back. So I disappear and it waits for a while. And then I reappear. That might be too long. So let's just go a little bit. Let's just pause for a second and then come back. Poof, gone, poof, return. Just like that. And again, that's why we need the empty shot in the background to fill in the gap right here. If the empty shot's gone, it just turns to a black screen until I return. So the empty shot fills in, giving the illusion. So let's trim this a little bit. Okay. So this one's much simpler. That's really all we need to do. Now we just need to animate the little poofing thing, which is this one right here, the teleportation shockwave. So we're going to grab this. We only need the video for this one. It's just this cool white shockwave on a black background. We're going to bring this in, and we're going to put it right before I disappear the first time. Right there. Right now it takes up the entire screen, so we just have to add a simple effect to it. So we're going to go back to our Effects tab. Effects. And we're going to add the invert tab, or invert effect, right there. And this will switch it from white and black to white. So watch, drop the invert right there. So that switches it. And now in order to see it, we're going to make the white area disappear by just changing the blending mode. You remember this when we did Photoshop blending modes. Go to Effect Controls, and then come down to where it says blending mode. Change it from normal to multiply. So that allows the white to disappear and we just see the little black smoke, just like that. So now we just need to move this so it's right on top of wherever I'm jumping from. And again, you'll just need to move it wherever you're jumping from. You may not jump in the same spot that I do. You might be over here. Wherever you jump from, we're just going to adjust it. So adjust the position of the scale. We don't need to do a transform to this one. Let's go up here, right about there. Poof. See, now it poofs right when I disappear. Again, you want to time it just right. Maybe move it like another frame over right there. That's perfect. And now we just need to add it again when I reappear over here. So we just need to duplicate it and have it appear on this side. So instead of adding it all over again, instead of coming in here, adding the invert effect, remember we could just duplicate clips on our timeline. If you hold the Alt key, hold Alt and then drag a clip, you can create a copy of it just like that. So now I just copied this clip exactly as it is. That's why it appears a second time. So all I need to do is move it over to where I'm reappearing. So make sure I'm on this one again. Come back over here to my effect controls and drag position. We need to make it a little smaller because now I'm off in the distance further away from the camera. So to make it look more realistic, it's got to be smaller. Let's go right there. Might even lower the opacity just slightly. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. Gonna jump, poof, and poof, reappear. And again, if it's too quick, I can grab both of these and kind of move them away a little bit if I want to space out the distance. Poof, and then reappear, just like that. So that one's much easier to do, less steps involved. This one is a couple more steps, but it's pretty easy to do, nothing you haven't done before. We're just doing a simple mask around our subject like we did in the clone trail, and then adding a very simple keyframe animation. So you can do, again, whichever one you'd like, or even try out both. Why not? We got the time. So again, go out there, have fun, and show me what you got.